Hey, it's Nay, and welcome to Hey Nay. So, the topic for this episode is race and dating. And I've known I wanted to do this topic for a while, but I wasn't sure how I should go about it yet. Um, and I figured that I was not going to do any questions this time, and I was just going to speak a little bit, and hopefully you can take something out of what I say. First, I want to say that race is something that appears to be very contentious in American culture. It's sort of been that way all the time, but it seems like it's like really rearing its head again um, in recent years. Um, and I do believe that that plays a role in our social interactions with um, people who have a different race than ourselves, and I think that even carries over into our intimate relationships, whether that is in mate selection, um, whether that is in desirability, um, whether that is stereotypes and preferences, and ultimately interracial relations. Now, it's it is a bit of a weird topic to talk about, especially for those who don't think about it a lot. But I do want to give you a little bit of a personal anecdote so that you can sort of see where I'm coming from and then try to understand. So, as a young teenager, um, I could only see myself being with um, a black woman or a Hispanic woman. And I think that was because that those were the type of women and even the type of people I was around. Um, and you know, I, I think I think for me, it just didn't make sense. It didn't seem right at the time for me to sort of have any interest in anyone else. Um, because that's just how it was, you know. Even my family members, that's who we got along. That's who we got with, and that's who we made families with, and things like that. And um, so I was okay with that. I was comfortable in living with that, and being with that. But I learned early, you know, around the age of 16, 17, I would say. I would probably say 17. So I didn't have this way of thinking for way too long. But um, when I got to the age of like 16, 17, I started to try to understand the root of the problem. The problem. Um, it's sort of called neurolinguistic programming, in which you're trying to understand what is the actual root of why you feel and say these things. And I think it's so applicable to relationships. And I heard someone say it just recently, and I think it's very important. So for me, I started to realize that I felt this way. I felt this way not because I had so much pride in women who were black or Hispanic, but um, I felt this way because I had judgments and very, I had very stereotypical principles against other races. And I think when you start to realize that, you start to um, try to change that, especially if you're someone who cares about other people, you know. And like for me, that's important. As someone who's wanted to study relationships for such a long time, even before the age of 16 and 17, I can tell you that knowing that um, made me realize that I still have so much to do. I had so much to grow. And I had a trip in which I went to Spain when I was 17, and it sort of opened my eyes a lot more. I was the only black person, black student, excuse me, on that trip, and it sort of let me sort of see that, you know, the world is a lot bigger than you think. You know, it is. It really is. It's a lot bigger than you think. And um, these people I'm around, you know, we have a good time. You know, we have a good time. It is very funny. And, you know, I like them. I enjoy being around them. And the host family I lived with there was so open and welcoming to me that it really changed my whole perspective on everything. In regards to family, in regards to values, and even in regard to race. I started to understand that, you know, not everyone falls into these stereotypes that we have or that we're taught, which is important. Um, and I find it very interesting that that I'm not the only one who sort of thinks that way or who used to think that way. But when I noticed that, and I came to terms with it, I was like, well, why do I feel this way? It's a foolish way, you know? I like the reasons why I actually like certain individuals has nothing to do with race, you know? Um, I I just feel that, you know, I like this person because of this. It could be physical appearances too, and it could be, you know, personality and internal characteristics as well. But honestly, race wasn't the determining factor. You know, it really wasn't when I thought about it more. And if that's not a determinant, why am I sort of eliminating um, potential suitors for myself? Why am I doing it? Why am I closing myself off? So then I began to open myself up, and it was funny because then I just instantly um, started being attracted to multiple different races. It didn't matter what race you were. If I liked you, um, you know, I was attracted to you. You know, I wanted to be with you. I wanted to see where that could be. And um, for me, that was a big step. You know, that was a big step. And I was very proud of myself, honestly. Like I was just like, wow, like I feel this way, and I feel very confident in this. You know, I feel great. This is something I'm glad I've learned this, and you know, now I can potentially be with anyone. But the major problem with that is that although myself has, you know, I've learned to be open that way, not everyone else is necessarily the same way. So just because I may be interested and open to people of all different races doesn't necessarily mean that all races are particularly open to me. And I kind of learned that a little bit the hard way. But again, it brought more insight to me. I think a lot of people sort of try to conform to what they're used to, at least originally. It takes a lot more strength and internal thinking to sort of step out of your comfort zone. And, this applies to a lot of people, but I think if you look at individuals who are in interracial relationships, they will tell you that there was a big change in their life. Um, they can starkly show you a difference between how they used to be and who they are. And I'm not saying that, all interracial relationships are good. I'm not trying to say that, people who think of being in an interracial relationship are better individuals. I'm not saying anything like that. So I just want to make that clear. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that it's sort of like a different level of thinking, or not necessarily a level, but a different area or a dimension of thinking, I believe. And when you sort of unpack that, the world is sort of your oyster in that sense. You start to realize that, wow, like, why do people trip over this? It's ridiculous, A lot of people would say because of religion and beliefs. They would say because of their family expectations, and sort of what other people would think. And for me, because a lot of those things are important to me as well. But how I got over that was that I realized that, I don't want my family to dictate my entire life. Um, when it comes to my religion and my beliefs, the one thing that matters is that um, deep down, I will love this individual, or I would care for this individual. Um, and I think that is important. And and then when it comes to expectations and how people look at me or perceive me in this individual, I started to realize, well, am I always going to shape to how other people think? Am I always going to, be what other people want me to be? And I was like, no, I'm not. And then that is sort of how you get into this. That is sort of how you conquer, um, you know, that obstacle. And um, it's a challenge. It really is a challenge. So I know for those of you who have never had an interracial relationship, um, especially if you're single, I would say to open your eyes a bit more, and try to see what the possibilities could be, because you never know, like you really don't, um, and you might see that there's something special. Now, when I say something special, what I mean is that I've learned so much about other cultures um, and other races based on um, sort of being involved with individuals who are not of my race. Like I've learned so much about them, and I think that is really cool. So essentially, in also doing this and having interracial relations, you expand your knowledge on race, and I think that is powerful. So like I catch myself, or I catch myself correcting my family members when they make typical comments sometimes. I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense because that's not true. So it's like I sort of know the facts in that sense. So when I hear the opinions or the stereotypes that are being made, when I know for a fact that's not necessarily true, I can't help but to correct that. So it's really, really cool in that sense. Um, but the flip side, what a lot of people also struggle with is like, well, then, people of your race may feel like, you're like turning against them. It's not. It's really not that case. Because, like, for me, um, I love black women. First of all, I love being black. I just want to say that. I do. I love being black. I would not change that fact in my life. It's something in, that incorporates so much power, love, um, and strength, and that has traveled from generation to generation. And we are the most resilient um, people in my mind. I feel so resilient based on Black history. And I'm sure other people may feel that same way in regards to their history. But for me, I definitely see it. I see it and I feel it at times. Um, so I'm very proud to be who I am. But that doesn't change how I feel about, black women or white women. I like them both. I have strong feelings for both, as well as other races. So I think when you sort of do that, you really really show a different side of yourself that you probably haven't even seen before, you know. And I guess the point of this episode is just, try to try to be the best version of yourself, and try not to be blocked by what others may not see as okay. Um, because um, there's just so much more that you can do. There's so much more that you can learn and see and live through. I always find it interesting when people's like, I met this one girl who said, I can never be with anyone who wasn't this race. And it stuck with me all these years. Honestly, it's been about 6 years I heard that girl say that. And it wasn't that it wasn't my race or anything. I wasn't even attracted to her, but the point, and she was sort of involved with someone else. But the point was that when she said that, it just made me think like, wow, you completely just cut people off completely. Like, you don't even register them as potential suitors. You have now limited yourself. What could possibly be so great can never be, because you have eliminated that as an option. And it also made me think like, how are you learning? How are you understanding different people and cultures if you cut them off so abruptly? And now one may argue, yeah, they just didn't want to be involved with them in that way, but they may have friends who are of different races. And I would say, yes, that is true. That's a valid point. But I think, a close relationship, like someone you're dating, um, is a very intimate one. It's one that a lot of friendships don't really get to. And I just think that intimacy, in a sense of really understanding each other, um, that level you can only be obtained through an interracial relationship. But that is just my opinion. These are all just my opinion. And this episode's going on really long, but I just wanted to express that because it's a very important topic, and it matters a lot to me, and I hope it matters to you. Um, and, as we move forward in our society, in American society, for those of you in America, um, we just have to be brave. We have to be color brave, as Melanie Hobson says all the time. We have to be color brave, and I think that's important. Embrace who you are, and don't deny others. And you sort of become a whole new type of person. I hope I've helped some of you guys, and I hope you will take some of the things I've said with a few grains of salt. Thank you so much. Like, share, love, and remember to always start your day off with a hey. Goodbye.